So I was 4.5 years old, tipping on 5, very close to 5, and I got locked in an unplugged freezer in a garage. I was playing fort with some boys, and they said if I got up and got them popsicles, that they'd let me play longer. And so I climbed up. I'm calling out the names. I'm facing inward. They closed the freezer door. I thought, surely I'm just having a game here. We're going to, it's going to end any time. And then I heard the thud of the garage door. And our garage was separated from our house by quite a distance. And I started screaming. My mother said she heard something that sounded like a cat in heat. There's a very high-pitched sound. Wow. And we had land. Yeah. And that's the sound of terror because I was in terror. I innately knew that I was going to leave. I knew it. I could feel it. It was just an instinct we have because we have so many lives, journeys, that we've been through it before. So we know what leaving is. But I didn't need to be afraid, but I was a child, right? So I stopped screaming. I looked over and I saw these 3 lights and I kept screaming. And I heard, Susie, stop screaming. It was very firm. And they said, we're going to get your mommy. And I felt like they were saying, but wait, but not yet. But I didn't hear that. And I just felt like I was pulled from my body. And I was on the bottom of a stairway. And it was cracked and beautiful and Greco-Roman in nature. And I just remember this beautiful feeling of I have to get up to the top of this building. And the building was really an open Greco-Roman room. It had pillars and they were all cracked and broken. It was beautiful. And I wanted to get up because I knew the ceiling was open in a circle. And I thought there's something in the center of this room. And the minute I thought it, I was there on the edge of this well. Now, I'm a kid who wanted to know why I didn't see the tunnel later on in life, right? So I'm with Dr. Raymond Moody, who I studied under. Yeah. And I said to him, Raymond, why didn't I see the tunnel? Everybody else sees the tunnel. Why didn't I? And he said, did you ever stop to think that the well was your tunnel? That was not that long ago. It was an aha moment that took me back. I was overwhelmed by that. So I'm looking in this, what we'll call the well, but it was the tunnel, obviously. And I saw movement. Now, I'm going to explain this to you as an adult, not a child. But it looked like DNA, and it was moving in succession, and it was prayers and words, and it was one consciousness, and it was vast. And I could feel pain and joy and all these different emotions coming in one consciousness, but different words. So I would hear someone say, my mother has cancer. God, please don't let her die. And then I'd hear someone else say, I'm going to get a car. I'm turning 16, but mom and dad says he won't buy me a car because I got in trouble. God, please make him buy me a car. And I was hearing all these different energies coming through in words, but they were blending together as one consciousness. And if you think about it, most of the things humans want are very similar. So that made sense to me that it was one consciousness. We're all asking for the same thing, aren't we? Usually on our journey, sometime, someplace, somewhere. So I'm watching this energy go through, and I look over at these beautiful angelic beings, and I said, where am I? And they said, you're in the room of heart's desires. Now, I want you to understand, I'm going to call it the room. They used a different word, and I don't remember what it was. I think they said dimension, but I'm not certain. So I'm going to say room. Everything is going to say room. And I said, do you answer all those? And they said, no, Susie, sometimes what people desire the most isn't good for them. Didn't like hearing it. My mom used to say, just because you want it doesn't mean it's good for you, right? And I thought, that's weird. Why did I hear that? And then the next thing I knew, I was looking at this yellow brick road. I called it the yellow brick road because I had seen The Wizard of Oz, but it was a golden pavers. And I watched humans, and remember, this is all metaphorical. They teach in metaphor, especially when we're going to come back, which I didn't know. I wasn't afraid at all, though. I felt peace, and I felt like I took me with me. And I saw humans on this road, this beautiful golden path, and there were pyramids at the beginning of the road. And they were pulling from the bottom of these gorgeous pyramids. Now, I didn't know they were pyramids till later, but I remembered what they looked like, and I drew them. So I had that to go back to. What happens when you pull from the bottom of a pyramid? You unbalance. And I knew somehow that it was their life journey, and they were pulling from the bottom. And I watched all these humans drop to their knees and say, for the love of God, please help me. Nothing's going my way. Nothing's working out. Nothing's panning the way it's supposed to. And they were saying all these painful things. And I was sitting there watching this, and I thought, what's going on here? And I watched these beautiful angelic beings come in to swoop in, literally swoop in. And they started paving the path. But how they did it was they put all the pavers back, because the road was bumpy and crooked, and they pulled from the top of these pyramids, and the pavers were recreating themselves, hence past lives, future lives. Looking back, that's what I think it was. And they started paving this path, and it was beautiful and perfect. And I said, what are you doing? And they said, we are the pavers of your path. You are not. All you have to do is walk it. And I'm precocious, so I asked, how do you know if you're walking it right? And they said, we bless and block everything. And make no mistake, you can get through a block, battered and bruised at best, or you can shift. And if you see us blocking again, Susie, shift again. And continue that until you see us paving your path. What you try to control controls you, and what you run from chases you. I'll never forget the words. I've used them my whole life. I tried to control everything, by the way. I didn't listen. But I've never forgot the words.
Surrender's the hardest.
People always ask me, how do you remember this? And I say it had an impact on me. So for those of you that have watched The Wizard of Oz, you probably remember the ruby slippers, even though you haven't seen it for 30 years. And you remember Dorothy on the path, and you remember the lion and the Tin Man and how he cried, and they had to oil him. You remember those things because it had an impact on you. And that's what I felt was this intensive impact. So that's how I remember. And I've been there since, by the way. This wasn't my only journey there.
Wow.
So, and that's another whole nother conversation. But the next thing, they said some things to me that I consider to be private. And then I flashed into this, what I'll call a room. It was a dimension, and it's called the Room of Knowledge. I didn't know that when I got there. And I saw this little girl with a family. And I watched these books, almost feels like Harry Potter-like, but it wasn't. But we didn't have virtual at that time. So I didn't know how ever to describe it until Harry Potter came out. And I went, virtual. That works for me. But I watched these tablets of some sort or books. I don't know. There are no human words. Come in front of these people, and it was their life journey, and it was their contracts. And I heard them say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I can do this, And I figure they were choosing the PhD in hardship like I did, a lot of them. And somebody asked me on a podcast, do you think that was you? Oh. And I thought, whoa, what an eye-opener. I wonder. Because she was saying, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to go through that, and my soul's going to expand so fast. And I could feel the energy of this soul, just joy and happiness, but also willingness. We all come here with the willingness of knowing that we're going to leave. That's the contract, right? But we all fear death so much. And yet we made the contract. All of us, before we come, we know. So she kept going, and they said, that's a lot. That's a lot. And I believe they were her guides. And, that's an awful lot to take on. And she said, I can do it. I know I can do it. And people were saying, I'll come in at this time in your journey, and I'm going to do this with you, and I'm going to help you through this, and you're going to grow and expand. And so are we, watching you go through this journey, and we'll have our own, and you'll help us. And it was like this camaraderie and teamwork. And I watched them look at them and say, well, you do have free will. And they were gone. And I said, number one, where am I? And they said, you're in the room of knowledge. And I think they said dimension, but we'll go back to room. And I said, okay, I didn't know what it meant, but I had a feeling that they were knowing something about themselves, right? And what they were going to do. And I said, where did they go? Because I was shocked. They were gone, and they said they went to their next incarnation. Now, I didn't know what that meant at all. And I was about, I was young, 10, 11, 12. And someone said to me, do you believe in reincarnation? And I said, oh my God, there's that word. So as we go through the journey, or as I went through the journey, these realizations would come to me that were so impactful, and it made it all come together and make sense.
Right.
It's always how it works.
You're talking about getting clarity. You're talking about getting clarity later on about your NDE that you had.
And I'm sharing the clarity with you now.
Right. So, and you got taken from what was it? The first room was desire?
Room of Heart's Desires.
And then the second room was knowledge?
Room of Knowledge.
Do you think that's like the Akashic Records? Like
I
people?
do. I know it is. Wow. I don't relate to the word Akashic Records, but I honor it completely, but I just relate to the Room of Knowledge.
That's amazing. That's a much better.
So is this where they're pulling in their lifetime and figuring out what they want to plan out for their existence as whatever they're about to incarnate into?
But going based on their previous journeys.
Oh, so it's based on their life before.
Yeah. Oh, many lives before.
Yeah.
They understand what they need to learn to grow more. So somebody asked me, this was on a podcast, and it was really a weird question because I'd never gotten the question. They said, if your soul is perfect, because I always tout that, the soul is perfect. There is no imperfection in the soul. It feels the pain, but it's your go-to. It's the vine to the divine. And it is where you go to heal and get through the traumas because it doesn't carry it. It's there to help you heal. If my soul was damaged, your soul was damaged, there'd be nowhere to go, right? So they asked me, if the soul is perfect, why would it need to grow? And I said, because it's infinite, and anything infinite needs to continue in growth. There's no stopping growth in infinite, right? Hence infinite life, infinite lessons.
Right.
And that's the only reason, is because it's infinitely changing and growing and expanding, but in its perfection at the moment is right where it sits. It's always in perfection. It's the vine to the divine. It's what speaks to you. That's how they speak to you, is through that. And heal you and help you and support you. So my next trip, because it was like tripping, yeah, it was in this beautiful space where I saw animals everywhere. They were young and beautiful and running, and and I said, "Where am I?" And they said, "You're in the room of companions, or the space of companions." And with that, I transferred into this beautiful, not a garden, but it was expansive place outdoors. And it was all green, and everything was pulsating, even the blades of grass. Everything was alive. Everything. And I watched the animals come up to me, and they were moving through the trees, and I got this need to turn. And I remember I was little, and I was sitting in this place where there were dandelions and daisies, but not dandelions and daisies that you'd ever see, and colors like I've never, ever seen on this planet. I saw a couple things in this place. One, I saw these beautiful angelic beings, and they were opening their mouths, and the words and the music came out at the same time. And I asked about it, and they said, the angels created music. You can call the angels anything you want. They're still the same beings. I understood. They come as we understand them, and I understood angels. And they said that they created the music to elicit change in you and feelings. So think about when you hear music. You can feel joy, you can feel rockin', you can feel sad. It's your jam or it's not your jam, but it doesn't matter, because if you feel it, you feel it.
Yeah.
Right? And it elicits the emotions they want to come out of you, to elicit the change they need in you. And it does it every time, doesn't it?
Is that why sometimes you can have a song come on and it seems so relevant at that exact moment? You're like, this has to be one of my spirits or guides or something putting this song on, because this is too on point.
Yes, yes. Your loved ones speak to you through music. Everything is music. Think about when you walk into a room and there's music, it changes your emotion immediately.
Yeah.
So it has so much power.
Right.
And they created it for that.
We always say music's the only thing that can bypass a human's emotional defenses like that.
That quick.
Yeah.
Yes. And it joins you together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has a commonality.
Unifies a space immediately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what it's for.
That's amazing.
Then I saw this pyramid crystal. I don't usually share this, so this is only once in a while do I share this, but I have to share it with you guys because I can feel your energy and you're going to love it. It was filled with faces and figures, almost like Casper, but they were human, kind of, sort of. They were spirits. And I went to put my hand in this. It was like a clear mirror, but it felt like a pyramid. I couldn't get my hand through it. And I tried so hard, and they wouldn't let me in. This is why I don't share it. And I knew there were people I knew there, loved ones, and I wanted to get in. And they wouldn't let me. But what I learned later and understood later is that if I had, I wouldn't be coming back. That was the final crossroad.
Oh.
So sorry.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I looked to my left, or what I thought was my left. I think it was just one big circle. There really wasn't a left or right, but I don't know how else to describe it. And all I have is human words, and that's all I can give you, an emotion. And there was this mountain, and there was this entity that was everything. It wasn't just an entity like we picture, like a god entity. It was everything. It was a deity. It encompassed everything, everyone, every spirit, every soul. It was everything. And I wanted to get up that mountain so bad. And I can remember feeling like I needed that love. And I couldn't get up the mountain, but it came to me. And it was like a beam, this intensive love. You've only felt it there, and we don't have the memory of it. But that's how we learn to love here. That's why we feel love. It's in our souls. We just can't get to that expanse. I think we'd implode here if we did, because it's so powerful. And I was everything, and I was nothing. I was just perfectly imperfect and perfection all at once. And I think I've been looking for that love my whole life, wanting to find it again, but I wouldn't be able to survive it here if I had that. But I have an expansive love, and we all do. And we just have to tap into it. And then I saw this like cobblestone type effervescent rainbow. The description's not enough, but cottage, and there was a pathway, and I watched a beautiful angel float out of this beautiful place. All I could think of was, I want to float. I hope I get to float. I want to float. I was a little girl still, and I just wanted to float, and I was, but I didn't know it. I couldn't see myself floating, right? So that's all I wanted. And I went kind of towards her a little bit, and then she said, "It's time to go. It's time to go, Susie." And the next thing I knew, I was walking by a river. And there was this, it was beautiful. It was our creation. Here I go again. And she said, "You're going to go through the water." And I thought, oh, they're going to clean me up for my mommy because I was out in that valley, in that field. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's not what they meant. And they said, we all go through water and it cleanses us and it's our purity. And they told me I was going to have a difficult life and that I would be okay, that they'd always be there, which they have been. And I stepped into it. I didn't want to, but I did. Because what they said to me before I did was, your mommy's waiting for you. And I think I was getting back into my human self in some way. I don't know how, but I was, and I knew exactly what that meant. I'd be with my mommy. And in I went. My mother said she heard 3 times, "Your baby's in the freezer." I was in there from anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I know it's somewhere in between, but we don't know when.
Whoa.
And we only know that because of when the boys went home. They could calculate it from that, but they could have been out playing. The fact that I'm alive is a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
The whole journey was. My mom said she went outside. Now, I can't get this perfect because my mother's not here to share it with me and remind me everything. But what I believe she told me was that she was going towards the garage door and it was down. And she said, Susie couldn't open that. She's too little. So she turned around and then something told her, she's in the freezer. And my mom flung the garage door open, went over to the freezer. And she said she spun me around and I was ashen and I had blue fingertips and she knew. And she started screaming and dropped me to go run and get help because there weren't cell phones. She had to go to a corded phone. And I cracked open my jaw. I still have the scar. I'll never get rid of it. Facelift or anything, I'd never get rid of it. I haven't had one, but if I did, that's, I wouldn't get rid of it.
Not the scar. Keep it.
Yeah. Keep it.
And I took a breath. And when I got well from this experience, which took some time, I opened my eyes and I saw spirits, so I closed my eyes again. I didn't know what they were. And I opened my eyes again, and they were everywhere. And I thought they were the boogeyman. And I would cover my head and say, go away, and I'd pray them away, right? But they didn't. And after a while, I realized they weren't hurting me, and they seemed to love me and care about me. So I started playing with them.